Okay, I want to welcome you to this presentation, the cortisol connection and 3 steps to belly fat for those who are over 40. So what I want to do today is I want to share a story, including some characters, to first give you an understanding how the house works, this house, okay, and why sometimes this house starts accumulating around the midsection. So I'm going to talk about 3 characters that are involved in that. But before we start, I want to ask you a question. Have you ever changed and thought, I want to lose some of this waistline. I want to lose some weight, some fat. And you change some of your habits. Maybe you started reducing your calories and reducing some of the sugar and you're doing certain things, but nothing changed. And for the whole month, you tried everything. You tried different diets and nothing changed. And I see this often for people over 40. They make a change, especially on one aspect like diet, or you go to the gym and you start going every day to the gym and you're doing a cross trainer and you just notice that the waistline is not changing. Sometimes you'll see the scales change, but when it comes to the scales, if we lose something, what is it? Muscle, water, fat? But if you notice your clothes aren't changing, then that's a great indication. And what we've noticed is there is a very strong relationship with cortisol and belly fat. And what I want to do today is explain this, share this, and hopefully, most importantly, give you some simple but really effective strategies that will make a difference. So here we go. This healthy metabolic house is run by quite a few characters. And today I'm going to introduce you to 3 characters that play a significant role. The one in the middle, Corey cortisol. To the left, the lovely melatonin, and to the right, insulin. Those 3 characters work together, and when they're out of sync, cause a real problem. So let's first dive into each one. Here's cortisol. Now I'll call him the day shift manager. Now Corey's job is really simple. When I ask people in my talks, what do we need cortisol for? Most people will say, well, it's a stress hormone, fight or flight. And then I ask, well, how does that help us? How does cortisol help us fight better or do things, or this fight or flight? How does it help us? Essentially, cortisol's job is to raise your blood sugar. And when your blood sugar rises in the morning, because overnight it should have been going down, Corey comes in and wakes up the house. Corey turns on the lights, starts the heating, starts all the process and says, okay, let's go. Let's get this day going. And this is so important. When I've looked at clients who actually have low cortisol in the morning and a sustained low cortisol, often they're like zombies. They basically have no energy coming into this house. And so they don't want to leave bed. They don't want to get out in the morning. That's a big problem. But the other side is if cortisol stays high throughout the whole day, it's going to have a knock-on to the other hormones. So let me talk about them. So cortisol, its job, day shift, get things going. Now we've got insulin. Now think of Indy as controlling the fuel shed. So when you eat something and you eat more than your blood sugar, and here's the interesting fact for a lot of people. When I ask them, how much sugar is in your blood during a fasted state, for instance? And let's say we have 6-7 liters of blood. And I'll say, is it a liter? Is it a cup? A glass full of sugar? How much sugar is in your blood? A tablespoon? A teaspoon. A teaspoon of sugar in all that blood. And you think, how is that possible? How can my body be running on just a teaspoon of sugar? And what happens if I drink a can of Coke, like regular Coke with all the sugar? Yeah, we have a big problem. So the hormones are the ones controlling that blood sugar, seeing that little teaspoon doesn't go overboard. Now, for a diabetic, guess how much is in them? Like 1.5 teaspoons. So it's very strongly controlled by these hormones. And even when you are eating, it shouldn't be excessive. You're not going to suddenly see this in the blood. Your body, like insulin, is going to come in and it's going to grab that excess and it's going to put it in the shed. Okay, and this shed could represent the liver, the muscles, and obviously excess-wise into fat. So that's Indy's job, is to control that shed. Now let's look at melatonin. Like I said, she's my favorite. Sleep. So when the cortisol starts coming down, and that is critical. You see in that picture, there's a handover. Corey gives over the tools to melatonin and basically said, it's your turn in a healthy body. But if cortisol has to keep working, Mel stays out of the picture. And so what Mel's job is these classic R's: repair, rejuvenate, restock the supply. So it's involved in the immune system, hormonal, producing the hormones. All those aspects come down when we sleep. We burn our fat when we sleep. We often think, it's when I'm doing the exercise. A lot less. We're mostly using our stores of glycogen or stores of glucose in our muscles and our liver to keep our blood sugar at a good level. But when we sleep and our blood sugar starts going down, then the body should start giving out some of that fat to be used as fuel. But if cortisol kicks in, actually what happens, instead of using our own stores of fat, we're going to be going for our muscle because it's much easier. And that's one of the problems. A lot of people who have a lot of cortisol, they might lose weight on the scales when they start doing all the training and cutting all the calories, but often it's their own muscle tissue, which is the metabolic tissue and the most important thing. So cortisol raises your blood sugar, gets you going. Insulin balances the blood sugar, lowers it, puts the excess energy away, and melatonin repairs overnight, refuels, rebuilds, does all that amazing work. So what happens when life hits us? What happens when we're overwhelmed with things and it continues to go on? See, cortisol is an amazing hormone, but it should come in and then relax throughout the day and let melatonin take over. What happens when we feel under this fight or flight response and we have chronic stress? So acute stress, not an issue. It's how we're designed. Chronic, month after month, year after year, Hans Seeley summed it up. Every stress leaves an indelible scar, and the organism pays for its survival after a stressful situation by becoming a little older. It's not just about getting a couple of wrinkles. It's about internally, we're in what's called a catabolic state, meaning we're breaking down more. We're not able to repair and rebuild. So let me tell you about a client. Now, this is a composite client. This is a client put together from a variety of clients in relation to cortisol. Now, let's call this client Sam, male, female. Now, Sam wakes up in the morning. Straight away, Sam goes, checks the phone, sees that there's 14 unread messages, got to start getting into that, looks at the calendar and sees the whole day is just back to back and thinks, here we go. Goes away, quick shower, gets ready, gets out the door. No hydration, except for the coffee on the way, which is absolutely essential. Without the coffee, things don't work. Coffee's grabbed on the way to go out the door, off to work. Maybe there's a little cafeteria or something on the way that you can pick up something quick, something easy. Generally a refined carbohydrate, maybe it's a croissant, maybe it's a bun, something like that. Out the door, to the office, hits the ground running. Lunchtime comes, maybe there's lunch at the desk, still doing the work, comes to the evening, collapses on the couch. First thing, looking for just something to just take some of just relax. Opens a glass, has a nice wine, sees what's in the kitchen for a meal, gets into bed and thinks, oh my God, I need to relax. Suddenly, the dopamine with the scrolling kicks in. Maybe it's YouTube Shorts or Instagram or something, just to kind of thinking that relaxes the person. And obviously we know it doesn't. But that dopamine is pretty hard to kill sometimes. So what happens with that person is obviously throughout the whole day, they've been pushing cortisol. They get to the bedtime and often they're also this feeling of tired but wired. The energy is just a survival mechanism. And as I said here, every stress is making us a little bit older. So here's what we get. Corey can't clock out. So blood sugar keeps spiking. Not only does it spikes, you're wanting more of this sugar. 3 p.m., this is why we're wanting the sugar. Because Corey's like, come on, help me out, blood sugar. My job's to raise your blood sugar, but if you could help me eat some more, because think of it, your body under stress wants as much fuel in the tank as possible because you're thinking about fighting or running. So it goes up, goes down. And in our community, that's what we're looking at. We're looking at how to stabilize the blood sugar first. And so we've got to look a lot at cortisol. For Indy, insulin, fuel, it's getting locked away, it's getting thrown, it's working overtime. And the more we work insulin, the more we get to a situation called insulin resistance. So we should have, Indy should be really chilled, taking the amount of fire, putting it away, very relaxed. And in a blood test, it would be a lower score. But as Indy gets exhausted, we need a higher amount of insulin, more insulin. So tests like fasting insulin, numbers start going up. That's a great sign, not a great sign, but that is a strong sign that insulin is becoming resistant. It's not able to do the job. So blood sugar keeps rising. More insulin's coming in, but it's not able to transport it well into the fuel shed. So we have the more blood sugar, the more inflammation, and that causes a vicious cycle. Mel, well, plain and simple, her shift gets cancelled. She's not able to come in and repair. She's not able to do her work. So for what that means for the body, if someone's got a gut issue, and I see a lot of people with gut issues, that lining, that immune system, which the immune system, it's not getting the time to repair, to rebuild, and inflammation is building up and destroying it. So no wonder people are having gut issues, digestive system issues. And the whole hormone picture. I've got 3 here, but there's a lot more. This affects the sex hormones from testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, DHEA. It affects the thyroid, which is the master gland of metabolism. All are affected by especially these 3, these shift managers getting exhausted. All right. So that's the hard part, the bad part in that sense. But let's come now to how to fix it. Now, when it comes to solutions, from my mind, the most important ones are the ones that you will do, which means if they are too complicated or demanding too much time, too much energy, they just won't get done and we won't get success. So what I've created is 3 areas to look at. And when I go through these, don't think about doing them all. Think about picking one as simple as possible that you can reinforce, and you build from these habits. A tiny habit, or what I call a lever, gets built onto the next. So we're going to look at the morning routine, throughout the day, and then the evening routine. Okay, to start, I have a saying, wake, water, walk. Wake up in the morning. Please try to put that away as long as possible. Go outside. On the way, if you can get a bottle of water, you can have it next to your bed. So this trigger, there's a bottle of water next to my bed. I'm going to grab it in the water. What is a cortisol drink? It's basically got minerals in it because your body is electrical. It needs minerals to run. It needs magnesium. It needs sodium. It needs chloride. So those who say salt is bad for you, salt is a conductor. Yeah, you can have too much of a good thing, but your body, especially under cortisol, needs more in the morning at that start. If you were to go to the hospital because of you had some illness, even like food poisoning, they would put a saline line into you, not pure water. That would cause a problem for the cells. So having a little bit of minerals in there is really important, and magnesium is a great one in there also. Also to have in there protein is so important at the start of the day to balance it out. And if you're going to choose like a protein powder, please make it as clean as possible. But this is why sometimes like having protein for breakfast, like some eggs or leftovers, or a smoothie or Greek yogurt, things like that, can be really beneficial to balancing blood sugar. The more you balance blood sugar, the more you support cortisol. The more you support cortisol, the more you balance blood sugar. They work absolutely intertwined. And getting outside, getting the light, even if it's a cloudy day, getting sunshine actually helps set melatonin. If you can walk in nature, bonus points. Right? If you can think of wake, water with minerals, some protein, and go for a short walk. Even if the walk is only to the front letterbox or front part and then coming back, at least get the blood flow going. So that's number one. See if you can have a look at that and even just little parts into it. So nature and hydration in the first hour, okay? Got to just calm that threat, that assumed threat. It could be in the mind, the threat, or it actually just, an actual threat. But you want to just ease it off cortisol. Number two, throughout the day, you do not want cortisol constantly having to fight or run. What helps? Now, in the clinical studies, actually, these three techniques I've pulled out because they have so much great research. And you would be so surprised how powerful laughter is in balancing cortisol. So if you can do a wake water walk, and if you can do it with someone who's funny and or listening to a podcast or having a laugh yourself, awesome, great start. There's something also that a lot of people haven't heard of. It's been around a long time. I learned this a long time ago, called tapping, emotional freedom technique, where you say a phrase, even though I feel like this, I deeply and completely accept myself, but it's using acupressure points to relax the nervous system. This is all about supporting the nervous system. We've got two parts. We've got a strong cortisol sympathetic dominant, fight or flight, and we've got what's called parasympathetic, rest and digest. We want to be in this parasympathetic state as much as possible. So letting go of the emotions as much as possible as they come, which included the breathing. Now, there's a lot of different breathing techniques out there. Breathing techniques even of slow, deep breathing in and then letting go. Great. One that I found in the terms of the research that I use, Buteyko breathing, which is more about keeping the mouth shut, breathing through the nose, and very slow, controlled, really to activate that parasympathetic. Also, what's important is to watch out. If I breathe from here, I'm activating this sympathetic nervous system. I need to breathe low into the belly like the baby. So there's three more things you could explore. And now let's get to Mel, setting up the evening. So the job, obviously, sleep is to recover, to repair from the day. So you want to ideally turn the lights down 60 to 90 minutes before. Stretching, reading, breathing, all those things to just start winding down. Maybe journaling. You want to try your best, and this is especially for those with kids, understand routine is actually really supportive. When it comes to holidays, it's kind of chaotic, and for the body, chaotic. So if you can hold a similar sleep routine, and we're not talking about being perfect, it's about consistency, but obviously watch the caffeine, watch the alcohol. Alcohol often puts us to sleep but wakes us up at 2 or 3 a.m. Then we can't get back to sleep. So just treat it as it is. Alcohol, it's like a social situation used as ideally little as possible. Caffeine in the morning, just what obviously first I believe in hydration, then trying to push the caffeine back but not too late. So if you enjoy your caffeine, need to go, and if you can push it, if it's usually at 7 o'clock, try to push it to 10, but don't push it after 3 or 4. Okay, really prioritize on that sleep. Remember, sleep is where we burn most of our fat. Set the scene, cool, dark, quiet room, invite that Mel to come in, okay? Try not to have a TV in your bedroom. Keep it as it is, okay? So it's a place for rest, recovery, sleep, romance, things like that. All right, so I've just given some strategies. How do we implement them? There's a Stanford researcher called BJ Fogg, and he came out with something called Tiny Habits that the book, if you've ever read, Atomic Habits, also draws on. So this is my version of that, but what we need is a trigger, a reminder. So in the example of wake, water, walk, my trigger is every time I wake up, I know I have a glass of water next to me. And in that glass, I've got some minerals, I've got some things, I've got some magnesium, but I know that's the first thing. I'm hydrating my body. And then I know it's time to get outside. Now, I'm lucky. I've got a couple of dogs who knock on my door at 5 or 5:30 and say, come on, let's go. So that's my cue. So it's hard to miss. But if you can find a cue there, and if you can have that as some way, whether it's but just a reminder, even if I know I'm busy, but I've got to get out just for even 5 minutes, makes a difference. Get the blood flow going. You'll feel so much better. And then a reward. A reward is really important to reinforce that habit. And it could be like BJ Fogg talks about his own high five, but it's something that you say, you can take that acknowledgement and just say, you know what, that was a great thing. That was a great start. So really take the time to, on the days you do this, to notice, wow, you should have noticed that the day on most occasions, unless something dramatic happens, but you felt better. You want to reward yourself, okay? So those 3 steps. Do that. And like the Sams, getting up, you make those changes, as I've seen so much in my work, that those little things done consistently really add up. To ask people to do, you want to lose weight, let's set aside an hour a day for training, and let's meal prep to the extreme, and let's cut all the fat out, and let's do all those things. If it works for someone, great. Those things work great. But if you've tried those and it's not sustainable, then try the tiny levers, the tiny habits way. Because in my experience, that makes such a big difference in the long run. It's only going to make you healthier. And as you have more energy, that means more time and time to exercise and time to more meal prep to do those things, great. But start with the simplicity. So if you've got any questions on that, I would love you to come across to our school community. So here's a little thing we have called the Glucose Reset. You're very welcome to come across. In that, there's some other videos, but we have a lot of posting. We have a lot of people contributing, even showing their blood sugars. They're wearing what's called continuous glucose monitors, and they're showing their data so we can talk about it, explore how to flatten the curve. That's one of the biggest things we do there, is first to flatten it, because those spikes are inflammatory. They're aging us, and they're increasing our risk for metabolic diseases like heart disease. So a lot of information in the community, but also hopefully the motivation and the support for you on the journey. So thanks for taking the time to watch this. I hope you got a lot out of it, and I'd love to see you in the community. Cheers.